Stonehenge is a prehistoric monument in Wiltshire, one of the most recognizable monoliths of the late Neolithic period. Built some 5,000 years ago.
For 5,000 years, Stonehenge has stood on a plain in southern England. Silent, immovable, holding something back. Archaeologists studied it for generations and walked away with more questions than answers.
The name Stonehenge is thought to come from the Old English or Saxon word stanhengen, which means stone hanging, because it kind of resembles what gallows looked like in the Middle Ages. You had two uprights with a crossbeam.
Then in 2024, artificial intelligence scanned every inch of it, every stone, every mark, every hidden feature buried beneath the surface. And what came back from that scan terrified the research team. What they were looking at was not a primitive religious monument. Someone had been here long before us. They understood something we do not. They built this to make sure we would eventually find it. And after 5,000 years of silence, the message is finally starting to come through. What it says is the part nobody is ready for. The monument that should not exist. Nobody has ever fully explained Stonehenge. Not once. Not in 5,000 years of people staring at it, measuring it, arguing about it, and walking away confused. And the more closely it gets examined, the worse the confusion becomes. Because this monument does not behave like something built by primitive people figuring things out for the first time. It behaves like something built by people who already knew exactly what they were doing. And that is the problem nobody has been able to solve. The stones are enormous. Some weigh 25 tons. That is heavier than 4 full-grown African elephants stacked together. Some stand 30 feet tall, and they were placed with a precision that still makes engineers uncomfortable today. The accepted explanation goes like this. Farming communities living in Britain 5,000 years ago spent centuries dragging these stones across the country using ropes and wooden logs. They had no metal tools, no wheels, no written plans of any kind. But they were motivated by religious belief. And that belief, the story says, was enough to make them move mountains. Literally, they raised the stones and built a monument to mark the summer solstice, which is the one day each year when the sun is at its highest point and the day is at its longest. Here is where the story starts to break down. The large sarsen stones came from a location called Marlborough Downs, 25 miles away. The smaller bluestones came from the Preseli Hills in Wales, 150 miles away. Moving stones that weigh 25 tons across that kind of distance with no technology is already a serious engineering problem. But the route from Marlborough Downs to Stonehenge crosses land that 5,000 years ago was effectively a swamp, soft, waterlogged ground. Engineering analysis shows that attempting to drag stones of this weight across that terrain would cause them to sink. There is no proposed method that makes this work, not one. The bluestones from Wales carry a darker cost that has never been spoken about openly. Researchers calculated what moving those stones would have required based on the size of the population living in Wales at the time. What they found was disturbing. Moving those stones would have required pulling almost every able-bodied person in Wales away from their homes, their children, and their food supply for an extended period. People would have starved. People would have been crushed. People would have died along that 150-mile route in significant numbers. And after all of that suffering, the stones that arrived show no damage from the journey. No scratches, no cracks, no surface wear from being dragged across 150 miles of rough and unforgiving terrain. They arrived pristine, as if they were never dragged at all. Then there is the precision of the stonework itself. The stones sitting across the tops of the uprights, called lintels, are not flat. They are curved. Curved to follow the exact circumference of the circle beneath them. Achieving that curve in a stone weighing several tons requires precise mathematical calculation done in advance. The joints locking the uprights to the lintels use a technique called mortise and tenon, where a carved knob on one stone fits into a carved hole in another. This is a woodworking technique. Using it in stone at this scale would not appear anywhere else in the world for another 2,000 years. Every serious modern attempt to replicate this construction using Neolithic tools and methods has failed. Teams with full modern knowledge, large workforces, and every advantage available tried and could not match the original. That failure matters, because it means the people who supposedly had none of that knowledge somehow produced something that the people who have all of it cannot copy. Something about this story does not add up, and researchers had been carrying that uneasy feeling for decades when they finally decided to stop theorizing and start scanning. What the scans found inside the stones. The research team arrived at Stonehenge in 2024 with technology that had never been deployed at a prehistoric site on this scale. Their goal was not to guess anymore. They were going to read every surface of every stone in extraordinary detail and let artificial intelligence find what 5,000 years of human study had missed. The first tool was photogrammetry. This process takes thousands of photographs of a surface from slightly different angles. A computer then combines those photographs to build an exact three-dimensional model of the surface accurate to a fraction of a millimeter. Every groove, every curve, every mark left by a tool thousands of years ago, captured completely. The second tool was LiDAR. This fires rapid pulses of laser light at a surface and measures precisely how long each pulse takes to bounce back. The result is a detailed three-dimensional map of every contour and irregularity on the stone surface down to microscopic level. Both sets of data were fed into an artificial intelligence system trained to identify patterns, techniques, and anomalies that no human analyst could detect at this level of detail. The AI found 5 distinct techniques used to shape the sarsen stones. The first technique matched Neolithic stoneworking exactly. Stone hammers and basic grinding tools. Rough, direct, exactly what you would expect from this period in history. The team was not surprised. Then the AI moved to the second technique, and the mood in the research team shifted. Along the most critical surfaces, particularly the lintels and the locking joints, the AI found shaping so precise that across a span of 2 meters, the variation in surface accuracy was less than 2 millimeters. 2 millimeters across 2 meters. To put that into perspective, the computer-controlled cutting machines used in modern precision manufacturing, guided by digital programs rather than human hands, typically achieve accuracy of around 1 millimeter. Hand tools in 2500 BCE were producing results within 1 millimeter of what computer-guided modern machinery achieves today. The team ran the numbers again. The result did not change. The AI then compared these surface marks to over 50,000 examples of Neolithic stonework collected from sites across Europe, every known site from this period on the continent. The Stonehenge marks matched nothing, not a close match, not a distant resemblance. Whatever produced this level of precision, it was not anything the Neolithic world was supposed to have. Some of the most precise shaping was found on surfaces that would be nearly impossible to reach once the stones were standing. This means before a single stone was moved into position, someone already had a complete and exact plan for every surface of every stone, and they executed that plan without a single significant error. The stones were showing the team something they were not prepared to accept, and that was before the AI revealed what the placement of those stones was actually designed to do. Something was wrong inside the circle. In the 1970s, a researcher named Don Robbins spent extended periods inside Stonehenge conducting measurements and studies. He reported something he struggled to explain scientifically: a persistent feeling of unease, a sense of presence that had no visible source, disorientation that lifted the moment he stepped outside the stone circle. He was not the only one. Multiple archaeologists and researchers who dedicated significant portions of their careers to studying Stonehenge on site have reported the same thing across different decades. A heaviness inside the circle, a feeling that something was pressing on the mind, a discomfort that could not be attributed to anything they could see or measure with the tools they had at the time. They did not know the stones were doing it deliberately. When the AI analyzed the precise positioning of every sarsen stone relative to every other stone, it identified something that had been hiding in the geometry of the circle for 5,000 years. These stones were not placed to look impressive. They were placed to do something specific to the human body and mind of anyone standing inside. The phenomenon is called constructive interference. It works like this. When sound travels through air and bounces off a surface, it creates a wave. When two sound waves meet, They can either cancel each other out or combine and grow stronger depending on the exact distance between the surfaces they bounced from. At Stonehenge, the precise spacing between the stones causes sound waves to combine and grow stronger rather than cancel. The result is amplification. Powerful, directional, enveloping amplification. And achieving this is not simple. The spacing must be exact. The surface angles must be exact. The dimensions must be exact. Change any single element significantly, and the effect disappears. The AI calculated that the probability of this level of acoustic precision occurring by accident was less than 1 in 10,000. Acoustic researchers Rupert Till and Bruno Fazenda formally modeled the complete Stonehenge circle and confirmed it produces a reverberation time of approximately 1 second. Reverberation time is how long sound continues echoing in a space after the source stops. 1 second in an open outdoor prehistoric monument does not happen naturally. It is what you experience inside a modern engineered concert hall designed with 21st century acoustic science. The frequency range the monument amplifies most powerfully sits between 95 and 120 Hz. This is a low, deep frequency, the frequency of a heavy drum or a deep human voice, and this specific range does something unusual to the human body. At these frequencies, sound is not just heard through the ears, it is felt physically through the chest, the ribs, and the base of the skull. Sustained exposure to amplified sound in this frequency range produces documented neurological effects: disorientation, heightened emotional response, a powerful feeling of invisible presence. In some cases, mild hallucination. The researchers who reported feeling unsettled inside Stonehenge were not imagining things. The architecture was producing those feelings, intentionally, engineered into the placement of stones 5,000 years before acoustic science existed as a formal discipline. And the effect did not stop at the stone circle. The AI found that the shaped ridges and landscape features surrounding Stonehenge channel external sound inward toward the monument. Sound produced at specific points outside the circle by drums, chanting, or horns would be funneled toward the stones and amplified further. To anyone standing inside, sound would appear to rise from the earth itself and the sky simultaneously with no visible human source anywhere. Whatever was done inside this circle was designed to make the people experiencing it feel they were in the presence of something beyond human. And it worked. The mathematics that should not exist. The ancient Egyptians built the pyramids. They had written mathematics, trained scholars, and one of the most advanced civilizations the world had ever seen. They calculated pi, the ratio of a circle's width to its outer edge, as 3.16. The Babylonians, equally advanced, with a complex written numerical system that influenced mathematics for centuries, used 3.125. Both civilizations were close, but neither was exact. The Sarsen circle at Stonehenge encodes pi as 3.14, more accurate than Egypt, more accurate than Babylon. Encoded in stone by people who had no written mathematics, no known numerical system, and no documented understanding of geometry of any kind. People who, according to every accepted account of this period, were subsistence farmers with basic tools and no formal knowledge of anything beyond survival. That single fact should stop everything. But the AI was not finished. Embedded into the stone layout, the AI found a specific type of right-angled triangle whose 3 sides always follow the ratio of 3 to 4 to 5. This triangle has a unique property. It is the simplest and most precise way to construct a perfect right angle. The Greek mathematician Pythagoras formally identified and proved this relationship around 500 BCE, and it was considered one of the foundational discoveries of mathematics. The AI found at least 7 separate examples of this exact triangle deliberately built into Stonehenge, in the spacing between the stone circles, in the geometric relationships between the outer ring of pits and the inner stone ring, in the positions of the outer marker stones. 7 instances of a mathematical principle that would not be formally understood for another 2,000 years. 7 is not a coincidence. 1 could be accidental. 2 could be a strange overlap. 7 is a system. Someone was applying this mathematical relationship repeatedly and deliberately across the entire design of the monument. Then the AI found the same triangle encoded at the Ring of Brodgar in Scotland, and again at New Grange in Ireland. Different countries, different centuries, different groups of people who had no documented contact with each other. The same mathematical relationship encoded deliberately every single time. This was not an isolated anomaly at one site. This was a shared tradition being preserved and distributed across an entire civilization that left no written record of understanding any of it. There is no developmental record for this knowledge anywhere. No earlier, cruder monuments showing rough early mathematical attempts that slowly improved over generations. The knowledge appears at Stonehenge fully formed and exact, which means it was not developed here through trial and error. It arrived here, already complete, already precise, carried from a source that has left no other identifiable trace in anything the world has ever found. Someone knew all of this 5,000 years ago. And then that knowledge vanished completely, without a single written word left behind anywhere on Earth to explain where it came from. The sky was a warning. Everyone who has ever studied Stonehenge knows about the summer solstice alignment. On the longest day of the year, the sun rises in a direct line over a stone called the heel stone. It is real, it is documented, and it has been the centerpiece of almost every explanation ever offered for why Stonehenge was built. A solar temple, a calendar, a monument to the sun. The AI found that this famous alignment is the most obvious thing about Stonehenge and the least important thing it was built to track. Hidden in plain sight around the outer edge of the main circle are 4 stones positioned in a rectangle. They are called the station stones. Most documentaries do not mention them. Most visitors walk past them without a second look. When the AI calculated the sight lines between these 4 stones and reconstructed the exact position of the night sky as it appeared in 2500 BCE, what it found changed the entire picture of what this monument was built to do. The station stones align precisely with the maximum and minimum positions the moon reaches on the horizon during its 18.6-year cycle. Here is what that means in plain terms. Every month, the moon rises and sets at a slightly different point along the horizon. Over 18.6 years, those positions slowly shift through their full range and return to the beginning. To even discover that this cycle exists, someone must watch the moon rising and setting every single night for nearly 20 years and record every position with precision. The AI calculated that encoding these alignments in stone with the accuracy found at Stonehenge required decades of continuous, unbroken, systematic skywatching. Think about what that demands. There had to be a group of people whose only purpose was to watch the sky. Every night. For 20 years at a time, someone was feeding them, housing them, and protecting them from the pressures of ordinary survival so they could focus on one task alone. This was not a community of farmers occasionally gathering for ceremonies. This was a dedicated institution with rules, hierarchy, and authority stretching across multiple generations. The kind of institution that does not exist in the world conventional history describes for this period. The reason this cycle mattered so much becomes clear when you understand what it predicts. At the extreme points of the 18.6-year cycle, the conditions for solar and lunar eclipses reach their maximum. A civilization tracking this cycle could predict years in advance exactly when the sun was going to vanish from the sky in the middle of the day. In a world with no science and no framework for understanding why that happened, the person who could announce the death of the sun before it occurred held a form of power that has no modern equivalent. But the AI found that the purpose went beyond power. When all the astronomical alignments were analyzed together, Stonehenge was not tracking the sky to celebrate it. It was tracking specifically the celestial cycles that researchers have correlated with catastrophic flooding, severe storms, and periods of destructive climate instability. The 18.6-year lunar cycle directly affects the strength of ocean tides. At its extreme points, those tidal forces intensify. The builders had watched the sky long enough and survived enough destruction to understand that certain positions in the sky reliably brought certain catastrophes on the ground. They were not studying the stars out of curiosity. They were afraid of what those stars announced. and they built this monument to make sure the people who came after them would know exactly when to be afraid. But this fear was not unique to Stonehenge. Thousands of miles away, the same warning was being carved into stone by people who had never met the builders of Stonehenge and never would. The warning that was lost. Stonehenge was not built in isolation. Thousands of miles away, thousands of years apart, other ancient monuments carry the exact same fingerprints, the same mathematics with no developmental history before it, the same astronomical alignments tracking the same dangerous cycles, the same impossible precision appearing fully formed with no visible origin. Göbekli Tepe in southern Turkey was built approximately 7,000 years before Stonehenge, around 9 to 10,000 BCE, making it the oldest known monumental structure ever found on Earth. Its massive carved stone pillars display astronomical alignments and geometric precision that have no precedent in any culture known to have existed in that region. The knowledge appeared there fully formed with no earlier simpler version anywhere in the record. But here is the detail almost never discussed publicly. Göbekli Tepe was deliberately buried. Someone made a conscious decision to fill it completely with soil and conceal every pillar, every chamber, every carved surface. The reason has never been established. A monument built with extraordinary knowledge and effort, then intentionally hidden from the world. Whatever was inside it, someone decided at a specific moment in history that it should not be found. Newgrange in Ireland was built around 3,200 BCE. For exactly 4 minutes on the shortest day of the year, a single beam of light travels down a 19-meter stone passage and illuminates the inner chamber floor. The margin of error in this alignment is less than 1 degree. It carries the same Pythagorean geometry found at Stonehenge and at the Ring of Brodgar in Scotland. 3 sites, 3 countries, 3 different centuries. The same mathematical knowledge encoded in stone each time by people who left no written record of understanding it. These were not separate cultures independently arriving at similar ideas. This was one connected system of permanent records built across an entire planet to carry a single warning forward through time. And then it collapsed. The AI found that the quality of construction at Stonehenge peaks at the very beginning and steadily declines from that point forward. Later builders were copying something they could no longer read. Around 2500 BCE, a genetically distinct population called the Beaker people arrived from continental Europe, and within a few generations had largely replaced the existing population. The people who completed Stonehenge were not the people who designed it. They inherited the monument without the knowledge behind it. They were maintaining a warning device with no understanding of what it was warning about. Stonehenge fell out of active use around 1500 BCE during a period of severe climate collapse that brought widespread crop failure and social breakdown across Britain. The institution that had maintained this monument for centuries, the skywatchers, the mathematicians, the people who understood what the stones were actually built to do, did not choose to stop. They disintegrated. The knowledge went with them into the ground. For 3,500 years, the warning sat unread on that plane. The mathematics invisible, the alignments reduced to a tourist curiosity about the summer solstice. The message the builders gave everything to preserve, encoded into the heaviest and most permanent material they could find, went undelivered. The AI has now found it. We have the instrument in our hands. We understand what it was built to do. We still do not know what it was warning us about, and we have no way of knowing if we are already too late.